Have you ever looked at a wine menu in another country and thought, I have absolutely no idea what any of this means? Maybe you've skipped visiting a vineyard because you thought wine tasting was only for experts. But what if I told you that some of the best travel memories you'll ever make have very little to do with wine and everything to do with the people, the culture, and the place you're visiting? Today, I'm revisiting one of my favorite conversations with certified sommelier Maria, better known as Maria the Wine Blonde. Instead of talking about wine from an expert's perspective, we're talking about how wine can become a gateway to understanding a destination. And even if you don't know the difference between Cabernet and Chardonnay, this episode is for you. Before we dive in, if you enjoy discovering destinations through their culture, food, and hidden experiences, not just checking famous landmarks off a list, I hope you'll subscribe. Every week I'll share ideas to help you travel more intentionally. Now let's meet Maria.
Thank you for having me, Cheryl. I really appreciate this, and I hope you enjoy the wine tasting today.
Absolutely.
So at the core of what I do is I translate wine. I feel like wine in today's world can feel a little stuffy, a little overly academic, and I try to break it down to make it more approachable and less intimidating. And that's my goal. And with my channel on Instagram, Maria the Wine Blonde, I focus not only on wine, but the things that go with wine. And that's travel, wine regions, and you're the travel expert, and also restaurants, food, and people. Because for me, at the core of it, wine connects people. And I feel like most people don't really know how to describe wine, and that's part of why it's so intimidating. They don't understand the grapes. They don't understand the region. You know, we learn a little bit of geography in school. Most of us forget it by then. Wine teaches you so much about geography, different regions, different countries producing wine, but also the geography. So you need to know where France is and say, where is Ribera del Duero? Where is Rioja in Spain compared to where, southern part of Spain is, like Jerez, where they produce sherry. So you really get to know your maps really, really well, which is fun for me. I wasn't a big history buff, but I loved geography.
One thing I immediately loved about Maria's philosophy is that she isn't trying to make people into wine experts. She's helping people feel comfortable, and I think that's true of travel too. You don't have to know everything before you go. You just have to be curious.
So I got into wine because of food. I mean, think about it. It's a consumable, right? It has its place at the table, just like food. And I grew up with a mother who was a very, very good cook. When I got older and started dating, I would go on a date and would know everything about the food menu. But then this other menu would come to the table, and it always got handed to the man, always to my date. And I remember asking for it one time, can I see that? And I looked at this menu and I said, oh my gosh, this is a foreign language. This is crazy. How do I not know anything about this? Because it really felt like it completed the dining experience, and it slowed it down, and it helped you connect with the person across from you. And it brought everything together, almost making time stand still. I said, I need to learn about this. And then what sealed the deal, I was up at Mohegan Sun Casino. I don't know if it's still called that today, but in Connecticut. And I was with a group of friends. One of them happened to be a pretty decent gambler, and I'm sure he got it comped, who knows. But it was a bottle of 1982 Chateau Margaux. So first growth Bordeaux from the left bank. Beautiful, beautiful, highly expensive wine. 1982, so quite a bit of age on it. And I tasted this wine and I said to myself, oh my gosh, what is this? This is just unbelievable. The layers, the complexity, what was in the glass, it was just life-changing. It was as if tasting the Chateau Margaux 82 was as if time stood still and there was no one else around me. I literally put my nose in that glass. Everything else disappeared. All I could do was smell layers and layers of flavors and complexity and wood and fruit and earth. And it almost felt like I was in France, just smelling this wine. And that sealed the deal. I said, that's it. I'm taking classes. I'm going to find out if there's a place I can learn about wine. There has to be a wine class. So I enrolled in wine classes at the Wine School of Philadelphia.
I absolutely love this story. But did you notice that it wasn't really about the wine? It was about what the wine represented. It was a place, a culture, a memory. That's exactly why I encourage people to experience destinations through local food and wine whenever they travel. Those experiences stay with you long after the vacation ends. And speaking of unforgettable experiences, if you've ever dreamed about visiting vineyards in places like Spain, Italy, Portugal, or France, I've linked some wonderful wine tours below through one of my trusted travel partners. If you book through that link, I may receive a small commission at no extra cost to you, and it helps support the channel.
Went to Philadelphia Textile, it's now called Philadelphia University. I actually did not finish my degree there because I just don't think it was meant for me. In fact, I picked up and I traveled instead. I left early from my studies, and I moved to Mexico.
Wow.
And I
That was
decided
brave.
to work at a hotel down there, and I worked in entertainment and animation. I mean, that experience for me, especially because in those hotels, you have customers that come, the patrons come from all over the world. So meeting people from different countries and hearing about their country, where they're from, and what their country is like made me so curious. I said, okay, this is a stepping stone. Mexico's great, but I need to see so much more. Yeah, it really sparked my interest for travel working there. And while I wish I finished my degree, I don't know that fashion would have taken me where I am today, you know?
That made me smile because I think so many travelers can relate. Sometimes the trip you almost didn't take ends up changing your life. I've certainly had destinations that completely reshape the way I think about the world. That's one of the reasons I keep traveling.
I think it was a good pivot. No regrets, no regrets.
And talking about your beginnings with food and everything, I think that's one thing that probably brings so many people together: food and, of course, wine. So what a great combination,
Wine is seriously the most complicated consumable, more so than almost any food that you will taste. It's just so much more complex and layered. But together with food, it is a dynamic combination. And learning that, and I specialize in food and wine pairing. It's one of my favorite things. So for me, being a so-called influencer in Vegas, I like to say content creator better, I feel like it's having the knowledge of food and wine makes me good at what I do. There's a lot of influencers out there who know nothing about wine. That's typical. Most people don't know a lot about wine. But food, if you're going to be a food influencer, then you should know about food. I've taken cooking classes at Cordon Bleu and with private chefs and learning from them and I love to cook. I do love to cook. And I feel like those who taste wine are usually also people who know ingredients and love to cook as well. I love it. I put on the Frank Sinatra music or some jazz, and I obviously open a bottle of wine, and I will cook. Even if my husband's traveling, I am in the kitchen, singing in a spoon, dancing around, throwing wine in what I'm cooking. I just have a good time. It's a great creative outlet for me. Wine is meant to connect people, and it's meant to be enjoyed. So you don't always want to analyze it. And the other tip I'll give you if you're in a restaurant, smell your glass, and I know these are clean because I brought them, but smell your glass before they pour the wine in it. Because I can't tell you how many times you get funky glasses. But what this does is it releases all the compounds, the aromatics, the bouquet, everything coming from the wine. It helps the oxygen get in there, and poof, comes the aromas. It'll be a big difference between what you smell before you swirl and then what after you swirl. And I actually love in Europe because they don't drink wine like we do. They don't just sit around drinking 1, 2, 3, 4 glasses. There's always food involved. At the end of the day, you know what the best wine in the world is? A wine you love to drink. And no one can tell you any different. It doesn't matter the price tag, how expensive it was. Really, what matters is that you love it. And that's it. And the other things that are most important to me is where you had it, who you shared it with, the connection. That's the important
and
part.
like you said, the food and the wine. I mean, it is about connection. Like that's what travel is all about.
Yes,
it all comes back full circle.
It totally does. Wine for me is like traveling the world through the glass. It can take you to so many places, and that's what happened with that first wine I had. All of a sudden, I felt like I was in France, and I hadn't even been to France. It was like such a moment, but I thought, if France is anything like this taste, I'm in,
thing I hope you take away from today's episode is this: you don't have to become a wine expert to enjoy wine travel. You don't need to memorize grape varieties or tasting notes. You simply need to be willing to sit down, slow down, and talk with the people around you and experience a destination through one of its oldest traditions. Some of the best souvenirs you'll bring home won't fit in your suitcase. They'll be the conversations you had with people around a table, the vineyard you wandered through, the people you met, and the memories attached to a single glass of wine. So, if today's conversation inspired you to add a wine region to your travel wish list, I've included links below to some fantastic vineyard tours through my travel partner, GetYourGuide. And if you enjoyed this episode, I'd love to have you subscribe. Every week we explore ways to make travel more meaningful, more intentional, and a whole lot more memorable. So until next time, happy travels.